Okay, I'm sitting here today with Launa Purcell, and Ezra's here to help me as well. And we're going to talk about the time that we went axe throwing and I whooped her, right? Is that how it played out?
I think you did for sure, baby. I was like pretty impressed with your skills.
Actually, I think you beat me.
I don't think so.
It was back and forth.
I think we
Anyway,
were tied at first.
we were both better than Ann Brown. Can we agree with that?
That's true. That's true.
Okay, easy. All right, so we're going to sit and get to know a little bit about Launa today. So Launa, tell us about where you're born, where you grew up, things like that.
Well, I was actually born in Provo, Utah. I don't know if it was Provo at the time, but my parents were going to BYU, and I was born in the UVU hospital that was over there at the time, and there were so many babies that were born that day. They ran out of baby hospital beds, and so they put me in a cardboard box.
At the hospital?
At the hospital.
That's kind of funny. They cared a lot about you.
Yeah, well.
High priority. And then, do you know how long you lived in Provo, or did you grow up somewhere else?
I was there until I was 2, and then my parents moved to Idaho, to Shelley, Idaho, to live right next door to my grandparents, because my dad had lost his dad when he was 18, and he felt really close to my mom's dad, my grandpa, and so he wanted to live close to them to have the father connection.
That's cool. So what did your parents do up there in Shelley?
My dad is a mechanic, and my mom is a stay-at-home mom.
Awesome. And was your whole childhood and high school there in the Shelley area, or Pocatello, or where?
Yeah, we were in Shelley. I was in Shelley until I graduated from high school, and then moved 45 minutes away to Pocatello, Idaho, to go to college. And then finished up college and in the middle of college, moved to Idaho Falls with Andrew after we got married, and because he was managing a juice company, kind of like Jamba Juice, and so we lived there, and he worked there, and we commuted to Pocatello.
When I'm thinking about Shelley in small town Idaho, in my mind I'm thinking Napoleon Dynamite. Was that your upbringing?
Well, Napoleon Dynamite, it's like pretty similar, like definitely small town. We had spud harvest every year, which was 2 weeks out of the year that we got off of school so that we could go and work in the fields to help the farmers. And we could drive tractor, and to get the weeds down, you could work on the conveyor belt, sorting through potatoes, getting the bad ones out. And I actually didn't work in it very often, though. I just took the time off of school. But we were very proud of our potatoes in Idaho. The license plate of Idaho says famous potatoes. And our mascot for high school was the Russets, and our mascot was a potato with a crown and a cape, dressed up. And I was
Super spud.
Yeah, and I was on drill team, and we were called the Topperettes, as in potato toppings.
That's funny. How did you get into what did you just call it? I'm thinking dance.
Drill team.
Drill team. How'd you get into drill team?
Since it was a small town, we didn't really have hardly any sports, really, and actually I wasn't very good at sports anyway. But I was a cheerleader for a couple years, and then the cheerleading actually was kind of a mess because we had girls like move out, and our advisor changed a lot, and so it was frustrating. And I told my mom I was going to quit cheerleading. And she said, that's fine, you can quit cheerleading, but you're not going to do nothing, you have to be involved. She said, I don't care if you're on the chess club or the debate team, take your pick, but you're doing something. So I picked to do drill team and tried out for that, and one of the best experiences of my life. We had an awesome advisor that pushed us and worked hard as a team, and we went to competitions and we won. For our age, I think we were like A2 or something at that point. We won state in Idaho State, so that's huge to be the best A2 school drill team in Idaho.
It is.
Not really.
I'm curious though, as you look back, would you give yourself any advice as a teenager? If you're talking to your teenage self, what would you tell yourself or teach yourself or want you to know?
It was actually something I kind of learned as a teenager, because when I was younger, kind of finding myself when I was in junior high, beginning of high school, I would always think to myself, like, should I do this? Should I wear this outfit? What would like, the popular girl, Missy or whatever, be wearing? Would she wear this? Should I wear this? And then one day I kind of woke up and I was like, maybe I shouldn't be asking, would Missy wear this? Maybe I should be like, I'm going to wear this. And then people can say, would Launa wear this? And it was like kind of the start of just building confidence in myself and just making my own decisions. But I would say in high school, I wish I would have worried less about what other people thought of me and just had the confidence to be me and not worry about what other people think.
That's good advice. Tell us like a favorite high school memory or embarrassing moment or troublemaking or something like that. You just thought of something, I can tell. You just thought of something. You're just thinking, do I tell it or not?
Well, that you're right about that. I probably shouldn't tell it.
That means you definitely should. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay. I am a good friend, and so I was a cheerleader, and the skirts are about 6 inches long. They're about as long as Ezra's shorts are on that he has on today. But under our skirts, we wore these black briefs over the top of our underwear. They were just basically granny panties over the top of our underwear. And then when you do your kicks and everything like that, then your underwear doesn't show. So I had a friend that forgot her briefs, and she had like pink underwear on or something like that. So me having black underwear on was a good friend, and I told her she could use my briefs, and I would just wear my black underwear underneath my cheerleading skirt. But so I did no kicks or anything like that that day. I stood very still, but
good friend.
But embarrassing, kind of. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
What was growing up in the church like up there?
It was super easy because everybody was Mormon there, like basically almost everybody. But in a way, it was kind of hard too because since everybody was Mormon, everybody kind of was like, like Jack Mormon sometimes a lot of people were. I mean, there was definitely people that like own their religion and everything like that, but since everybody was Mormon, people were kind of like, took it for granted, I guess, being Mormon, versus when I talked to my friends that grew up in Texas and they weren't around a lot of Mormons growing up, they thought it was like easy to be Mormon because that was how they identified themselves, and they could tell people like, I don't do this because I don't believe in it, versus there everybody believed in the same thing and they're like, well, I do that too, and so sometimes it's harder to live like you want to believe if other people around you are the same religion and not living how they want to believe. But sometimes it's easier to be surrounded in other people.
After high school, actually, let's ask this. In high school, where was like I'm trying to think about Shelley, Idaho. Where was like the favorite hangout or the favorite place to eat or something like that?
And it was funny, we would cruise 17th Street. That was the thing to do in high school, which was the main street. And basically we just get in our cars and cruise up and down 17th Street, meet up at gas stations, and meet up with like all the other people and decide like where to go. And we usually would just end up cruising up and down 17th Street, blasting music. But
What type of music did you like?
I mean, just like hip hop back then.
Artists were like who?
It was, well, let's see, like, what was it, like Salt and Pepper and MC Hammer and ones I shouldn't say who they are.
Tupac?
Tupac was back then, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Classic 90s.
Yeah.
80s, 90s hip hop. That's awesome. That's great. So after high school, remind us again, you took off for college. Where'd you go? What'd you decide to study?
I went to Pocatello to go to Idaho State, and I love dolphins more than anything in the world.
And they have a lot of dolphins in Idaho.
They do have a lot of dolphins in Idaho, but I did want to go to school in California, but my mom said that I either had to go to a church school or a school close to home my first year. And so actually wanted to go. I didn't have the grades to get into BYU. BYU Idaho wasn't there at the time. It was Rick's at the time, which was just a 2-year school, so I didn't want to transfer schools. So I went to Idaho State, and with the intention of transferring to Utah State because I couldn't pay out-of-state tuition. And they had like a waiver back then where I could go there. But after I got to Idaho State, you end up staying because you get into it. But I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. It was my goal. And so I was going to start out in zoology at Idaho State because they had that major, which is a science major, because I wanted to go into marine biology and transfer down to California and get my degree in marine biology and then work at SeaWorld and be a dolphin trainer. But I got into my science classes and didn't do well in them. Just didn't know how to take tests and stuff, so got like a C in one of them, and so I was just like, okay, this isn't really I'm not gonna be successful at this. And so then I thought, well, I like to balance my checkbook, so I'm gonna go into accounting. So I switched to accounting there.
You wound up graduating in accounting?
I did. Yeah.
What was it like going to school at Idaho State? I'm sure there's not a lot of listeners that even knew that campus existed, so I'm curious what it was like for you.
Idaho State was fun. It had, there's tons of Mormons there. Basically any school in Idaho or Utah has a bunch of Mormons where you can find people today, and they have good institute programs and stuff. But, it was like an easy school. All my roommates were Mormon in the house that we lived in. We could go to church together. And they had institute dances and stuff. So kind of, I guess, like the institute's maybe like a mini BYU where you can go and hang out and make friends and hang out with other people. But Idaho State was fun. College is fun. It doesn't really matter where you go. It's fun to get out on your own and get away from your parents, make your own choices, make your own decisions, have your own freedom. It was fun.
That's great. Ezra, do you know how your parents met?
In college.
How did they meet? Do you know?
No.
All right. Well, we should hear this then. How did you and Andrew meet?
This is actually a great story. So it was at the Institute building, and it's actually funny because when we first got married, people would ask me like, oh, where'd you guys meet? And I'd say at the Institute. And they're like, the Institute for what? We're crazy people. And so anyway, we did meet at the Institute. I had, a girl I worked with, we were in the same ward, and she knew Andrew, and she was talking to him, and then I started talking to her, and I met Andrew. But the first time I met Andrew, it was, I think, Caribbean night or something, dress up at the Institute program, and Andrew's all in polka dot Bermuda shorts, a white t-shirt with an open Hawaiian shirt with a big gold chain and a big like pineapple hanging with a wig and a visor and big sunglasses, and like you could hardly see any of his face. So I meet him, and then fast forward 2 weeks later, there was like an institute dance, and I was at the institute dance, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're Anthony." And he's like, "I can't believe you recognized me. Even my friends didn't recognize me dressed up." But he's like, "My name's Andrew." And then he's like, "Well, do you and your roommate want to go with me and my roommate? We could go get hot chocolate. We could go swimming. We could go watch Fletch." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we did it all that night.
First date was watching Fletch.
Watching Fletch.
That's awesome. Have you ever
so
watched Fletch?
Andrew.
Oh, that's so awesome. That sounds like a family night to go watch Fletch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
6'9" with the afro. Just remember that. That's cool. So how long did you guys date before you wound up being married, and what was that time like?
We dated 9 months, and before we were married. So we met, and we met in mid-March, and then April Fool's. When we started dating. April Fool's, Andrew calls up his mom, and he said, "Hey Mom, I found the girl I'm gonna marry, or I'm gonna marry a girl. I'm letting you know." And he was like, and his mom kind of was like freaked out on him, and then he's like, "Haha, April Fool's." But then his mom was like really freaked out because she thought there's no way Andrew would joke about that, because he was never serious about any girls. I was the first girl that he was serious about. And let's see, we met, and it got serious pretty quick. I was actually not waiting for a missionary, but there was a guy that was out on a mission that I was going to date when he came back. We were just friends before. But we wrote the whole time, and like letters back then. And Andrews wanted to like get serious, and I said, "Well, I can't. I'm kind of like gonna date this missionary when he comes back." And he's like, "Okay." So the missionary comes back, and we go out. I tell Andrew I'm going out with this missionary, and he's like, "Okay, that's fine," and stuff. So we're out, and then Andrew stops by, and so it was me and Andrew and this missionary hanging out at my house, my roommate, and then Andrew's like, I'm just gonna go, and stuff is fine. And so he leaves, and then the missionary leaves, and then I get in my car and I go over to Andrew's house, and he's like, "It's fine, we can just be friends. We don't need to be anything serious or anything." And this was 1 month after we met. I told him, I said, "I don't want to be friends. I want to marry you."
Whoa, let's go forward. Did you know that?
No.
And we hadn't even said "I love you" or anything yet. And so
How did you know you wanted to marry him?
I don't know. I obviously Heavenly Father, because I dated a lot of guys and for a long time even, and I just there wasn't any that I wanted to marry before him. And so he was like, "Okay." He goes, "I love you."
That's
so
awesome.
I always joke that I asked Andrew to marry me.
That's a good story. And then where did you guys get married?
We got married in the Idaho Falls Temple 9 months later.
And then what did married life play out like after that?
We both we finished school and then both worked. Then
You were working as an accountant?
Yeah, I was working as an accountant, and Andrew we actually worked at the same company, Melaleuca. He was working in marketing and got paid more than I did, even though I worked harder in school.
Of course.
Because, but that's fine.
Marketing always makes more.
I know. Well, and it was small town, and the guys made more too. It was back in the day.
Yeah, not so good.
But anyway, yeah. So we worked, and they wanted to have kids after a couple years, after being married a couple years, and couldn't get pregnant, and so fast forward after 4 years of being married, finally got pregnant, and then 9 months later had Ethan. So we were married for 5 years before we got married, which was hard, but looking back, I mean, it was nice to have that time pre-kids and to have fun because we could do whatever we want whenever we wanted. But it was stressful at the time not knowing if you're gonna have kids.
You should probably tell folks about your kids. We haven't introduced who your kids are, and you're a boy mom.
I am a boy mom, a mom of 4 boys, and it's funny living in San Diego. In Idaho, there's lots of people with big families, but here I feel like you can get away with 3 kids without being looked at a little weird. But after 4, you're like, I'm introduced as, this is my friend Lana. She has 4 boys. So it's like my identifying mark here in San Diego. But my oldest is 19, Ethan. He's on a mission right now in Cambodia. He has, actually only 9 months left now on his mission.
Wow, that snuck by.
And Ezra is a senior at Torrey Pines, right here. Yeah, going to his senior year. And Eli is 13. He is in 7th grade at Earl Warren. And then the baby Enzo is 5, and he's in preschool at Solana Beach Presbyterian.
That's awesome. You do have great boys and a great family. It's fun to see. So you and Andrew married, started to have kids. I know you went to Texas at some point and then out here to San Diego. Maybe tell us about, what in life drove you through those areas and got you here.
Well, we were in Idaho. At that point, we had Ethan and Ezra, and I wanted to get out of Idaho so bad. Like, I was just done with small town Idaho, been there my whole life. And so Andrew had the opportunity to grow the company that he was working for, to open up a new area. So we moved to, they said you can take your pick. There's Georgia, there's Texas, I think Oregon was on the list. Anyway, I don't know, we decided on Texas. Andrew got on Cougar Board. Back then it was like a website, kind of a chat room for BYU, and you could talk to other Cougars, and he said, where should we move in the Dallas area? And they said South Lake area. So we moved to South Lake and loved it. But before we did, when I was saying goodbye to my mom, who is a mother of 7 girls, she was really sad that I was leaving. And she told my sister, she said, I can't believe Lana's moving. And my sister said, you should be asking, I can't believe Lana stayed as long as she did. Because I was trying to leave since I was 15. But we moved to Texas. We were there for 10 years. Great place. I loved it. It's the Bible Belt. And so even though there's not really a ton of Mormons there, it's the mission field or whatever as you would call it. It was a great place to live. The people are so nice there and very, very family oriented, very Christ oriented. When you go to Chick-fil-A and place your order, they say, yes, ma'am. In fact, when we were putting blinds in our house, and I was 29 at the time when we moved there, the guy that was putting in our blinds, he was, I don't know, probably, old, like 47, like I am now. But he said, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And so even though I was younger than him, he called me ma'am. And that's what they teach in the schools there is yes, ma'am, yes, sir. So people are just very, have very good manners there, and it's nice to go back to Texas and to go to Chick-fil-A and be called ma'am, and just with the respect. In fact, I was talking to a girl the other day, a diver, and I was asking her about school and where she wanted to go, and she was saying yes ma'am, and I was like, you're from Texas, aren't you? And she said yes ma'am. She can tell. But it was fun. Wednesday nights were the youth night there for all religions. And so we kept our youth night on Wednesday nights to coincide with the others. So they didn't have sports on Wednesday nights because of youth night.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's really cool. And then what got you out here to San Diego?
We would always come out here on vacation, and it's San Diego. It's fun. We love the beach. We'd come out here. Ethan and Ezra would go into surf camp for the week, and we'd spend like 2-3 weeks out here every year. And we loved Texas, but we thought like, what's California like? We always go out there. Andrew can work from anywhere because it's all over the phone and computers anyway. So we kind of financially got to a point where we could move out here because it's obviously a lot more expensive to live out here than Texas. Home prices, taxes, everything like that. So financially, Ethan was going into 8th grade, and I was apprehensive about moving to California. And Andrew said, Ethan's going into 8th grade. Let's go try it for a year. And then we can move back before 9th grade and before high school to interrupt his life. But let's just go try it out so we don't ever wonder, what if. And so I said, okay, let's do it. And so we moved out here, and we've been here for 6 years now.
What's a typical day like for you personally?
I like to go to the gym. I like to work out. I always have. It clears my mind more than anything. Gets me started on the right track as far as like just my mental health. Getting rid of stress. Eating healthier for the day and everything. It kind of just is the thing that puts me on the right path. So I get up, get the kids. Well, Andrew gets up at 5 because I'm not a morning person, to get Ezra to swim and make his protein shake. And then Ezra leaves. I don't usually see Ezra in the morning because he gets up too early for me. But, and then I get up, get Eli and Ezra out the door, or Eli and Enzo out the door, and then just go to the gym, work out, come home. And then Ezra gets out at 1. And so Andrew and Ezra and I usually have lunch together, and Enzo, but he doesn't really eat too much. So, And then come home, and there's usually a practice to drive a kid to, or an appointment to go to, and then come home and just try to find something for dinner, and go to do homework, get the kids homework, and go to bed.
You do have a fun family. Ezra, do you have a favorite story about your mom? Something funny?
No.
Tell us something about your mom that we don't know. Or if I could, or maybe this. If you were to describe your mom, like 3 or 4 or 5 things that describe your mom and who she is, what comes to mind?
She's really nice, and she always wants to make us, her kids, happy, and she'll like go out of her way. She'll go on like trips across the country to go take me to dive meets, and she's always just supporting and tries to give the best advice.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good mom. That's cool. Well, I like hearing about some favorites. So I was driving over thinking about some favorites. So I'm curious, what's your favorite type of food to eat?
Probably a good piece of fish.
Okay. Do you have a favorite restaurant?
I do like PCH Grill. Is it I don't know. Yeah,
Pacific Grill?
Yeah, Pacific Coast Grill. All over is they do have good fish, but I love the atmosphere. Just sitting there on the ocean, watching the waves, seeing the cliffs with the palm trees. It makes me happy.
It's a good spot. You got a favorite dessert?
Probably ice cream.
Good call. Favorite movie?
I don't know. I like the old chick flicks, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and like Ever After, the old Cinderella story, stuff like that. Just the old, funny.
It's funny. Brooklyn being sick has watched a lot of things, and she's watched both of those.
Oh, she has?
Yeah. What's a show that maybe you're streaming or watching nowadays? Anything?
Well, my all-time favorite show is Suits. And
That's a good one.
I actually watched it, I don't know how long ago, several years ago. I watched the whole season. Now it's out on Netflix, and I'm rewatching it, and Andrew's completely making fun of me about it. But it's like good. I forgot all about it, and it's funny, and it's witty, and I like it. So I'm like, why watch something that I don't want to watch if I want to watch that again?
Good point. Do you have a favorite podcast or an app or website or something that you'd like to share with folks? You're like, hey, I listen to this. It's kind of cool.
I mean, honestly, the only podcast I really make a lot of time for the one I listen to the most is actually Don't Miss This. And it is a really good one. I have a hard time just like sitting down and reading the scriptures and understanding the scriptures and really getting a lot out of it other than just doing my diligent duty of I'm reading the scriptures. Whereas when I listen to Don't Miss This, I enjoy it. And I don't always understand the scriptures, but it helps me understand the scriptures and relate it to my life. And so a lot of times if I'm teaching for church or whatever, I'll listen to that and read the scriptures along with it to get a better understanding of it.
He's a nice, proper guy from Texas, so that might be a connection.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from the Houston area.
Oh.
Yeah. Interesting. So the last question I was going to ask, thank you very much. I love learning. I thought I knew several things about you. Obviously, there's a lot I didn't know, so it's fun to listen and learn. Last question maybe ask is, how have you become converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ?
So sometimes I bore my testimony in church today, saying that I don't always have a testimony, thinking that I don't always have a testimony. But I realized that I do have a testimony, and I remember one time I was talking to Andrew about it, and I told him, I was like, I don't know if I believe in the church, and I don't know if I do, and like, how do I know if it's true? And he said, well, when have you felt the Spirit? And I can think on a handful of times when I felt the Spirit really strong, where it was like a life-changing, testimony-building time. The first time was when I was 12, when I went to girls' camp in testimony meeting. And I felt the Spirit so strong there. And that was kind of the first time that I really felt like, wow, this is true. And another time, Andrew was quitting a really good paying job we were in Texas at the time, but it wasn't really a good job for him. His bosses weren't really the best examples, and but it was a down economy, and he decided to go out on his own. And his dad called him, and he's like, what are you doing, Andrew? It's a down economy. You're quitting a really good paying job and to go out on your own, and businesses fail all the time. And he's like, I know, but I just feel like I need to do it. And I was like nervous about it and worried about it. And I went to the temple and I prayed. I was praying in the temple, just like, is this the right decision? What should we do? And I got the feeling in the temple that Andrew needed to quit his job and go out on his own. And I got such an overwhelming feeling that I actually never questioned it again. And it wasn't that I thought he was going to be successful at the new job, or starting his own business, that it could go under and everything, but I knew that it's what we needed to do. And so having that confirmation, it's hard to start your own business. We were really poor. Even my friends wanted to go to lunch, and it was going to be $10. And I thought, should I go to lunch? Quit. Should I go to lunch? And I was like, probably not. We didn't have an extra $10 to spend on lunch. So it was tight times, but in all of that time where it was sacrifice, I knew that we were doing the right thing. Even Andrew came to me at one point and he said, well, do you think I should do it? Do you think I should go get a real job and stop this? And I said, no, I don't. And I think he was coming to me because as a provider, thinking like, I'm not providing right now, thinking that even though we had food to eat, maybe I couldn't go out and spend extra money or anything, but we weren't hungry. We had car and we had our house and everything, but I knew that that's what he needed to do. So anyway, that was another confirmation I had. I was in the primary presidency at the time, and there was a baptism, and it was a girl that I didn't know at all, and we sang the Child's Prayer, and I remember singing that and just bawling because it says, Heavenly Father, are you really there? Do you hear and answer every child's prayer? And at the time I was going through something hard. We were trying to get pregnant with Enzo. It had been a long time, and I thought Heavenly Father had abandoned me, and he wasn't going to give me what I wanted the most, and which was another baby. And why wouldn't he? And was he listening to my prayers? Was he there when I was fasting? And at that moment, I knew that he did. He was listening to my prayers. And then we couldn't get pregnant, and we didn't get pregnant. And so I went to a fertility specialist. I was going to do IVF and thinking like, I'm gonna get pregnant, like no matter what it takes, I'm getting pregnant. And I went there and he said, you're too old. You're not getting pregnant. And so just move on. And so then I was upset, but I was also thinking like somebody would smack me, thinking like, what is wrong with you? You have 3 kids. Why are you being so selfish, wanting more gifts, more of what Heavenly Father's already given you? Just be thankful for what you have. You're being a spoiled brat. And so I had to move on. And I'm like, I have 3 great kids. I'm so blessed. And so I moved on and got past it. And then a year later, found out I was pregnant with Enzo. So Heavenly Father does answer your prayers, not always when in this lifetime or on our timeline for sure, but someday he will, and he knows. And that realized, but when I did get pregnant, Andrew did say, nobody can say no to Launa, not even Heavenly Father.
That's a cool way to end it. Thank you very much for sharing some personal experiences and sharing your thoughts and your feelings. It's really sweet and tender. I really appreciate making the time today.